Okay, so having all 7 of the heads, or 7.5, if you have the room, is the first step that we do. And you can't just randomly put these lines wherever you want. This, every single one of these measurement units are the exact same size as the head. The head's this size. I measured my unit based on where the top of the head is for head number 1, and where the bottom of the head is head number 2, by just going over. Then I took my scrap piece of paper, measured the exact same size of that unit, and then I did 6.5 more of them down the page. And the reason this is so important is we're going to be referring to these measurements throughout the whole class for the whole human figure. Step by step, we're going to use those units. So once you have your first measurement, and you're not positive that you're doing it right, you might want to show me, because if you get all of them wrong, if these are in the wrong place, the body's going to be in the wrong place. These are exactly how we're going to draw the body. So it's really, when we first start drawing figures, this is really the most important part. Everybody still has their heads down. Okay, so Michael, you measured the units on the side by your head, right? Good. And you have 7.5. Perfect. Good. I'm going to check everybody's before we go on, because if you don't get this part right, the whole person will be wrong. Their figure will be wrong. That looks like a very small person, Kiri. Did you just do a really tiny head? Typically, it should be full page. So that's why I said the first head should be about 1 inch. I mean, I think it's almost easier to draw it larger than bigger, because when you're drawing this for the first time, you want to be able to see well. Okay, let me just see, Gavin. Let me come in and make sure. Okay, you want to go ahead and number those, because I'm going to refer to them. Not the line. Don't number the line. Number the section. Head number 1 is this whole section. Head number 2 is this whole section, all the way down to 7.5.
I think my sketchbook is tall.
Huh?
I think my sketchbook is kind of taller.
Bigger than mine, you think?
Yeah,
Well, let me just see. Hold up what your drawing was. No, that's the same. It's a 9 by 12. That's the same as mine.
my number 12.
That's what mine is. So your person will be little if the head is little. Again, everything's in proportion to the head. So it's so hard to see. Can you move to the left a little? The light behind you is making it hard to see. Okay. Yep, that looks good. Just down a little bit. You have your chin right where the bottom of the line is right where the chin is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't tell because your name is in front of it for some reason. Okay, I'm gonna come around one by one because I can't see you unless I pin you. Uh-huh. Yeah, you don't need 8. You'll just need 7.5, but that looks good, James. They're all the same size, right? Okay, good. Coming around. Okay, that looks better, Kiri. That looks better, Willow. Good. Kate, that looks good. Gavin, that looks great. And Natalie, I think I can see yours. Yeah, the only thing is your body's going to be really close to your measurements, but that's fine. I usually put them on either side of the paper, kind of, but it'll still work. All right, now we can start drawing the person. The measurements are here and the head is here. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to go from the top down, point by point, okay?
I just got my
Okay, good. There it is. Having that in front of you is going to help you too. Okay, everybody feel your neck and tell me where your neck starts. It does not start under our chins. That's where people usually draw it before they start thinking about this class. Where does your neck start?
Probably around your ears.
They start right behind your ears. Correct, Willow. So whether you realize it or not, this is your neck way up here. It's right behind your ear. Don't draw it yet. I'm going to draw it on a large scale first. You really don't see a whole lot of it because most of it is covered by your the rest of your face. And like I said, this is all cylinders, okay? And cylinders have ellipsis on them. Remember when we did cross contours? A cylinder has an ellipsis because they're rounded. So if I start my neck from right about up here and it goes real close to the head to just under the chin, this line has to be a smiley face because it's a cylinder. It's not straight like the chin. Your neck is a cylinder. So this is the bottom of your neck. So take, go ahead and go to your, the drawing that you did of your guy. And just draw the tiniest little neck on the side of the head. And then end it at the bottom with a cylinder. It's gonna be super tiny, but it's gonna look like this. Okay, oops. That's what the book's working on. I was working on, there he is. You got it, Kiri? You got your head, your measurements and your necks? Okay. That looks good, Emmy. I think you can go a little tiny bit narrower unless your guy is a football player and he works out a lot. The necks are pretty narrow. It's really almost difficult to see it, but it's important that you know that it's there because our head does not sit on top of our shoulders. Okay, that looks good, James. That looks good, Gavin. I'm trying to think who's I'm looking at. That looks good. Willow. I can't see who's that. The one I'm looking at is starting at the bottom of the chin, and that would not be correct. It needs to start up a little higher.
That's Kate.
That you need to start a little bit higher, and you need to start it. I mean, and it needs to not go down as far. See, it starts way up here. This is where the neck starts behind our ears, and then it ends just below the chin. I mean, it could go a teeny bit more, but not much more than beyond the chin, okay? And if the square chin is bothering you, you can round it because obviously at the end this is going to be rounded. Okay, good, Emmy. Good, Kiri. That looks, I see yours, Natalie. That looks good. You have the neck. All right, that looks good, Michael. Good. I just want to make sure everybody's got it. Kate, did you get yours fixed? Yep, that's it. Good job, Kate. All right, the next thing we're going to do are the shoulders. Okay, the shoulders are rounded. They are not straight. Don't do it until I show it to you, please. They're rounded and not straight, which means right where the neck ends is where the top of the shoulders are going to be on a curved line. It's a curved line. It's not straight. And I would say, depends on the guy. I mean, people who work out would be 2 heads wide. Typical person, typical male is probably about 1.5 heads if you want to be technical about the measurements. As far as the width, it's wider than how big the head is. I think just a little bit wider, Emmy, tiny bit wider for yours, okay? Tiny bit wider for yours, 2K, just a little bit, hardly any. Okay, that looks good, Michael. James, yours could be a little tiny bit wider. Okay, good, Willow. For some reason, it looks the taddest bit like he's going like this, just a tiny bit tilted to make sure it's straight, because it'll mess you up when you're measuring everything else. That looks good, Gavin. If anything, it's a tiny bit too wide. It can be a little tiny bit less wide. Let's see, Kiri. So not curved down quite as much, Kiri. It's more straight. Yours are going down. You're losing your shoulders by doing the line too curved. James, hold up your wooden figure again. That looks good, James. put up the mannequin again. So the next line that we're gonna draw is what James is holding it up. The only thing we're not gonna do in our drawing is the waist circle. Remember I said all of these are circle and cylinders. We're gonna draw the top part of the body, which is referred to as the torso. Okay, the torso is the top part of the body. Like I said, unlike the mannequin, we're not gonna do that circular waist. They make it like that so he can twirl. But basically the waistline doesn't seem like this would be true, but you're gonna draw a really faint line from the measurement of head 3 and 4. And then you're gonna do a tapered cylinder that goes down from the shoulders to the waistline. And that's how big the torso is. So between heads 3 and 4, this line right here is about where the waist is. Because it's a cylinder, it's also curved. It's not a straight line. And then you draw the two sidelines tapered because a person's shoulders are more wide than their waist. So you start from the top, which is wider, and taper it or go in. It gets skinnier, in other words, as you go towards the waist. And that is what we refer to as the torso. From the shoulders to the waist is the upper part of the body, or the torso. Okay, good, James. He looks great. I think yours looks good, Natalie. That looks good. Let me figure out who you are. You guys move around. Emmy, that looks good. Kate, that looks good. Gavin, that looks good. I mean, some waists are a little bit smaller than others as far as the width. So for some reason, Willow, for some reason your heads are looking a little bit big to me. Did you measure the head for the 2, 3, 4, 5 and so forth?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's all the same.
Okay, I guess that's right then. Just looks a teeny bit bigger. All right, good. All right, the next thing we're gonna do, remember I said these are circle and cylinders, circle and cylinders. Sorry, I don't know what I'm punching here. Circle and cylinders. So the next thing we're gonna do are the joints. All of the joints are circles. I'm gonna do the upper arm shoulder joint. And unlike the mannequin, these circles are halfway inside of the torso and halfway out. Okay. I'm putting them like that so you can be able to connect them with the lines that are going to be the upper arms in just a moment. So this joint, the shoulder joint, is one of the larger ones in the body, in case you guys didn't realize, besides the hips. They're going to be pretty equivalent to the knee joint, but you're going to draw two smaller circles that represent the joints. Good, Emmy. And I mean, if anything, they can come a little out and a little in. Yeah, that looks good, Willow. Just for my sake, for the sake of my eye, just raise your waistline a tiny bit.
Okay.
Okay, James. James, did you go down between 2 and 3 for your torso? No, I mean 3 and 4. Okay, now I see it. Yep, that looks good. You don't have to color these in, okay? I mean, it's not terrible if you do, but you don't have to color them in. Okay, now here's one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're drawing people. Okay, that looks good, Michael. Typically what people do is they make a person's arm just the length to the elbow. It drives me crazy. Everyone always draws arms too short. If you stand straight up and you put your arm straight down, so you can see my elbow. My elbow is at my waist. Here's my waist. Here's my elbow. My wrist is way down on my upper leg. So with that in mind, we are going to bend these arms the smallest amount so you can see them a little bit. But you're going to draw a circle that's just about half as big as the shoulder circle. And it's going to be just above, just a little tiny bit above where the waist is. Okay, I'm going to draw it out from the body so that you can see them better. Our lines won't intersect. It's a little tiny bit higher. If I drew a line again straight across, it's a little bit higher than where the waist is because the arms are raised. I bent them a little bit. And believe it or not, that's how big people usually draw the whole entire arm when it's actually where the elbows are. That's one of the, I don't know, I would call it main faux pas in French, is not to do things that people do often when they draw people. Okay, so Gavin, that looks just a teeny bit too long, so just raise them up a little bit. And it, you know, you don't have to color them in because obviously when we go to put clothes on these people, you don't want your joints to be colored in. Same with yours, James, needs to be up just a tiny bit. That looks good, Emmy. I just kind of eyeball these. A little lower, Michael. Yours need to be a little lower. Okay. Bless you, baby. That looks good, Kate. That looks good.
I rolled them up a bit.
Oh, yep, that's better, Gavin. Leah, are you able to catch up? Sweetie, you missed the first part about the measurements.
Yeah, I just caught up. Sorry, I was late.
I'm glad you were able to do it. Okay, good. Yep, it looks good. Good job. All right, good job, James. So now what we're gonna do, good job, Willow. We're going to go from the outside line to the outside line of the circles of the joints on one arm. Okay, because it's a cylinder, you have to go from the outside of this circle to the outside of this circle, and then the outside of this circle to the outside of this circle. And that creates what feels like a cylinder. When you draw stick people before you take classes with me, it would not feel circular because a stick person only has one side of the arm, one side of the body, and so forth. There's two sides of the body and every limb that we have. Okay, that looks good, James. Good. Just make sure it's from the outside. If you were to measure your arms, the top part of your arm is definitely wider than the elbow and on down. Okay, that's why the joints have to be smaller. Looks good, Emmy. Good. Good, Willow. Kate's done both. Good. If you've done one, you can go ahead and do the other. And then just because it bugs me a little bit, you can't see through these people. So go ahead and erase any line that's intersecting with the arm on the inside of the arm. I just erased this part of the body and this part of the body because you wouldn't be able to see that. They're right next to it. Gavin, I didn't see yours. Sorry, let me look real quick. Okay, good. You got your arms. Good job. You can see why it's important to go step by step. Good, Emmy. He, she looks great, whatever she is. Okay, looks good. I think the only thing we did that's a tiny bit different, in case you're wondering, Leah, is I made the arms out a little bit, but that's fine. It's still correct. Same with you, Willow. That's fine. You can now go ahead and erase the part of the torso that's inside of your arms, since you can't see through them. I'm intentionally doing the guy's arms out kind of like this, not that much, but kind of more like this. Because if they're like this, it's kind of harder to see everything that's going on. Okay, so we should have the top half of the dude done. That looks good, Kiri. Oh, yep, that's Emmy. Good job, Emmy. Kiri, I haven't seen yours for a moment. Can I see yours, desk? Holding here. That looks good, Natalie. Good, James. Okay, good. Good, Kiri. Okay, good. All right, now the larger portion of the largest joint is the hip joints, okay? In the mannequin, they draw what kind of looks like a little skirt on the dude. It's about a head wide, long, sorry, about a head long. So look over at your measurements and just above head 4 and 5 you're gonna draw an upside down tapered unit. Because it's smaller in the waist than it is in the hips. This is for the hip joint. And notice it starts at the waistline between 3 and 4, and it goes down to about 4 and 5. And this is going to be the area where the hip joints are going to go. The hip joints connected to the leg joint. It's an old song because I don't know it. And it's tapered at the waist. In other words, it's upside down from the torso. It's more narrow at the waist, and then it goes out a tiny bit. Our hips go out a little bit. James, I would bring it up just a teeny bit. That might be just the smallest amount too long. Sometimes it's actually a tiny bit above 4 and 5. It kind of just depends on what your measurements are looking like. Okay, that looks good, Emmy. That looks good, Leah. Good, James. Oh, good, Gavin. The only thing is at the bottom, Gavin, you might want to round it a little bit. See, like this. You don't want to have little tips here. It's not really a skirt. James, good job, James. James, yours need to be around a little bit too on this part right here. Round it, not pointing. Good, Willow. Good, Kate. Oh. So in the mannequin, you can't see these because it's a solid wood, but we're going to draw the hip joints like ovals, and they have to be centered. In other words, if you drew a line down the middle of your guy, it would have to be right in the middle. They're going to be two somewhat large ovals, which are going to represent the hip joints inside of that section. The hip joints are the largest of all the joints in the body. So one's a little bit to the side more than the other, Kate. Can you center them a little bit? They also don't necessarily touch the outside. Looks good. That looks good, Willow. Just so that they touch, go ahead and raise up this line a little bit, Willow. You want the bottom of this line to be also touching the bottom of the joint circles or ovals. So the only thing about yours, Kate, is that Kate? No, it's not Kate. Who is that? Oh, Gavin, as yours are going out a little bit, they have to go straight down. Yours are tilted to the smallest amount. They need to go straight down. Okay, that looks better, Kate. I'm trying to think who that is. Yours need to be a little bit bigger, Emmy, a little bit bigger in general. That looks good. Whoever's showing me. Okay, Michael, that looks good. Your names go away. Okay, that looks good, James. That looks good. Emmy. That looks good, Gavin. Oh, that's not Emmy. Who is, oh, Natalie. That looks good, Natalie. Just bring in the this a little bit so it's not pointy at the bottom. This thing right here needs to be a little straight, this is the top of the hips, basically. Needs to be a little bit more rounded. Okay, that looks good, Emmy. Good, Leah. Awesome. All right. The reason it's really important that those ovals are straight is if the body is not just, if the legs are not just under the body, this guy's falling over, okay? We do not want our poor dude to be falling over, okay? So probably about halfway through, just above halfway through of head number 6. On mine right this moment, it's just above halfway through 6. You're going to do the next joints, which are the same size as the shoulder joints. And they need to be right under the hip joint. Okay, so here's head number 6. I'm going to come out just above halfway and draw the 2 circles that are the same size as the shoulders. And these are going to be the knee joints. And if they're not right under the joints for the hips, the guy's going to fall over. His body won't be straight. He won't be able to be what's called weight bearing. the legs bear up our weight, so it's very important. I probably should have mentioned, but it's fine for the first time. We're gonna do this again later in general, so that's a little too low, Gavin. Why don't you put yours a little like between 5 and 6? It's only about it's about a head and a little bit down, your knees are, from the bottom of the hips. So the bottom of the hips was 4 and 5, and then the head is about, same with yours, Kate, they just need to come up a little bit. The upper leg is too big, too long. James, up a little bit higher. So again, it depends on how you drew your heads. That looks a little bit better, Emmy, as far as where the knees go. Willow, yours can go up just a small amount too. Your knee joints need to go up a tiny bit. That's better, Gavin. That looks good, Emmy. Good, Leia. Okay, if you got approved, go from the outside of the hip joint to the outside of the knee joint and connect what's called the upper leg, making sure they're tapered. So the top of the legs are almost always wider than the bottom of the legs. Okay, that looks good, Michael. They could be, your joints might be a little tiny bit big, your knee joints. Okay, so this is the upper leg now, and you just want to make sure that the upper legs are wider than the knee area. The knee area is more narrow or thinner. Okay, that looks good, Kiri. And Kiri, you can take that line all the way up to the joints, to the ovals. Yours are a little too skinny, James. So go from, when you do these, you're going from the outside of the oval down, and from the outside of the oval down. That's what these are the hip joints, these two ovals, not just the little skirt. Okay, so it doesn't start, same with yours, Gavin. It doesn't start at the skirt, it starts up here at the hip joint. Same with yours, whoever that is. That looks good, Emmy. Yeah, Kate, so go ahead and take the joint up to the, up here. It's going from the oval to the knee, oval to the knee, hip joint to the knee joint. Good, James. Oh, I forgot to do the lower part of the arms. We skipped the lower part of the arms. So sorry. Okay. Oh, I did that on purpose. Okay, that's good, Michael. I did that because I want to make sure you're going to the right place. So Willow, make sure you're going from the outside. The top part of your legs are just not wide enough. It's tapered, so they're fatter on top, and then they get skinnier. So go all the way up to the outside of the ovals inside that skirt. Good, James. Yeah, that looks. I mean, if anything, that could be a little lower, but your whole dude is kind of little, so that's okay. The next time we do this, I want you to make a bigger guy. Good, Leia. Good, Gavin. Good, Natalie. Good, James. That looks good. All right, good. Now we're going to go ahead and, now that we know where the upper leg is, we're going to go ahead and draw what is called the wrist joint. So we're going to go from the elbow joint to the wrist joint. And it goes, like I said, all the way to the upper thigh. My upper arm is a little bit too long. If you measured these on any person, the upper arm and the lower arm are almost always exactly the same size. So if you're having trouble figuring out exactly where it goes, keep that in mind. So in other words, that's just, even them up a little bit, James. In other words, from here to here should pretty much be the same as from here to here. So James, I think your elbows need to go up a little bit. If you move, sometimes you just have to tweak these as you go. Same with yours, Kate. Your elbows need to be higher because your upper arms from here to here, from shoulder to elbow, is almost exactly the same as from elbow to wrist. Same with yours, Gavin. Your elbows need to be higher. So I probably might have said it a little bit wrong. It's really just above 3 and 4 where the elbow is, because the arms are bent a little bit. It's above head, heads 3 and 4. Yeah, that looks better, James. Curie, you got it? Yeah, that's better, James. I mean, Gavin. Looks good, Michael. Mhm. I mean, your arms might be the smallest amount short, Michael. Just make sure they're coming to what I call the tops of the legs. They come to right about here in the tops of the legs, the wrists. Okay, looks good. So now you can do the lines for the arms, Emmy. Good, James. If anything, James, this part of your legs just can be a little bit wider. The top part of your legs need to be a little bit wider. The guy's just a little too skinny. So your lower arms need to be longer, Kiri. They need to come down a little bit lower. They come all the way down to on the top part of the upper leg. They're just below your hip. I mean, you can measure that yourself if you put your arm down. Good, good, Emmy. Looks good, Michael. So James, can you show everybody? That's good, Gavin. James, show everybody your mannequin hands. Mannequin hands look like leaves, and they're the same size as the face. If you measured your face, it's the same size as your hand. And they kind of look like little leaves based on the mannequin. Okay, yours can go out like mine, or you can go straight down or whatever. But the hand is about the same size as the face.
Good thing I marked how big my face is on my ruler. I marked it. I don't know if you can see it, but I did mark it.
For your head?
Yeah, I marked it below my head, how big my head is on my ruler.
So your hands aren't as big as the head. Your hands are as big as your face, and your feet are as big as your whole head. That's good, Leah. Just make sure those lines for the legs attach to the hips, or else that guy's gonna fall over. That looks good, Michael. Good. Yeah, I intentionally don't put the arms right next to the body so you can just see my lines a little bit better.
Okay, I just marked how big my face is.
All righty. Good, Emmy. Yours is standing at attention with his hands very, very much straight down, like attention. It works. This is a huge lesson, and don't worry, it almost always takes this long. Good, James. Good. I think your hands could be a tiny bit bigger, Willow, just a tiny bit bigger.
Miss Lisa,
Yes, ma'am.
so given the fact that I don't have that much room on my paper, I kind of finished the drawing already with the legs.
Okay, so your guy will still be 7.5. Just go ahead and take the upper legs and attach them to the hips. Okay,
Mm,
so that they're attached to the joints. Yeah, but you got the idea. I just want to make sure you understand how big to do your feet. Okay, so now from the knee joint, the outside of the knee joint, to basically between 7 and a 7.5, again, for a man. A woman would probably be about 6.5. That's another thing you could do, Natalie, is make it a shorter person if you wanted to, and still put the feet in there. You're going to do your ankle joints the same size as the wrist joints, and they go right about to 7 and 7.5, kind of depending on how tall the person is. Michael would definitely be 7.5 because he's tall. Okay, so pretty much between 7 and 7.5 is where the joints go for the ankles, and the ankle joints are very similar to the wrist joint. Okay, so this is where it'll be a little bit different depending on the person you're drawing, because different people are different heights, right? And now the head is what I was telling Gavin a moment ago, is about the same size as the foot. So your face is about the same size as your hand, and your whole head is about the same size as your foot. In other words, I would say draw your foot in proportion to your head, and so forth. These are all things that we're going to be doing as we go along with human figures. So obviously he's very robotic, right? He doesn't look like a real person. It's just all for you to get the feel of the proportions. And this again was designed centuries before, during the Renaissance, to draw this person. Okay, so
Actually, there's a Renaissance coming up at the zoo here.
oh, how cool. Yeah, I mean, James, the only thing is that your ankle joint needs to be smaller than your knee joint so that this line is tapered. It's wider by the knee than it is at the ankle. It goes in a little bit. They all get smaller as they go down, from shoulders to elbows to wrist, from hips to knee to ankle. The joints all get proportionately smaller. I think your feet could be a little bigger, Emmy, but the rest of your dude looks good. Also, now wait a second. I think you didn't draw, it's like the lower part of your legs are too short. From the knees to the ankles are also very similar to the knees to the hips. The upper leg's typically just a little longer than the lower leg. But your lower legs were too short for sure.
I got this.
Good. I think your legs just need to be, sketch them a little bit bigger, Gavin. Your guy looks like he's been in a concentration camp or something. He's a little too skinny. Good, Leia. You can go ahead and do your feet. That looks good. That looks good, Kiri. Go ahead and do the feet a little bit bigger. The feet are as big as the whole head. If you could, if you're really flexible and you could take your foot all the way up to your head, you'd see they're very similar sizes. Good.
I'm not that flexible.
I
Gabby is.
I can do that because I do an acrobatics class and I can.
Kate, for some reason, I don't see any ankle joints. Do you have an ankle joint that I'm just not seeing? Need to just do it for the first one. It's good, Michael, but your feet need to be a little bit bigger. Okay, the same size as the head. And if the feet were coming out towards you, they would be shorter. So go ahead and draw them more to the side. I mean, a person doesn't really stand that way, but I want to make sure you can see them. Good, Willow. I think your feet are also a little too small. In proportion to your head, your feet and your hands need to be both a little bit bigger. That's better, James. All right. See how that, it doesn't seem like it would. This is going to go faster from here on. It doesn't seem like it would take the whole class, but it does. Next week, we're going to do the profile view, and then we're going to start doing figures in different positions. So while I didn't tell you, because I forgot, from here on, when we're drawing the people and we do use this technique, you want to draw this all a lot lighter. And go ahead and keep your joints in for now, guys, because you want to remember how to do this lesson. Your homework is to do this all over again without me telling you step. I want you to try to do a whole person that looks like this. If you need to open your sketchbook so you can go step by step and draw it over here, you can. But when you come back to class next week, I want to see this dude all over again. I want to see that you've done it on your own, okay? That way you're getting these measurements down a little bit. Yep, he looks good, Michael.
I got one foot flipped upside down.
On purpose?
No, by accident. I was measuring. I thought I measured it right, and I measured it right. I just put
That's
it
funny.
upside down.
So it looks like your knees could be a teeny bit lower, Gavin, and then the upper legs need to be fatter. Your dude's too skinny still. Legs are usually wider at the top and then go skinnier. Okay, does anybody have questions? You think you all can do this for homework on your own?
Yes.
Gonna do a whole nother person. The only thing that you could change if you wanted to do a girl instead of a guy, you could, a girl, if they're short like me, would be more like 6.5 heads tall. Okay. And then proportionately, kids get smaller and smaller. So some of you guys are probably more like 5.5 and so forth. Michael's probably the only 7.
Not my sister. She's probably at 6.
Oh, she's tall.
My mom is. She's almost the same size as my mom.
Oh my goodness, that's really tall. That's crazy.
And she's a year younger than me.
Wow, that's amazing. All right, so next week we will do another position. You're gonna do it's called frontal. This is called frontal position. You'll do frontal position for homework. Next week we'll do profile and it'll go faster. And we'll probably start the figures in the different positions based on that handout I sent you. Okay, so you're gonna need that handout, especially for the other positions because